Her entire journey was about evolving, engaging, and expanding. She evolved from the essence of life into a grand presence of light, Prakashmani. She found reason to engage with everyone she met and was always available in the moment, no matter how heavy her schedule was. She expanded the service of the Brahma Kumaris in over 110 countries. Her quality of being a humble instrument came from her understanding that her seva was being inspired by a higher power. When it came to leadership style, Dadi Prakashmani was not a feminist. She was a visionary. She was a world mother, and she was a spiritual genius. As a woman who headed a spiritual community, I would say that her style of leadership carried the Shakti signature. She seemed to be tireless, as if drawing from a deep well of Shiva's Shakti. And this gave her endless endurance and unlimited patience. Every move she made carried the imprint of the Shakti signature. What do I mean when I say the Shakti signature? Shakti is a pure power sourced from God Shiva, which has transformative properties. When tapped into, it is said that Shakti manifests in three ways: dynamic, creative, and active. For Dadi Prakashmani, dynamic was being natural, creative was being light, and active was being easy. Dadi's Shakti signature was deeply etched in her honesty and her humility. Her personality ranged from spontaneity to silence. Let me share a few anecdotes with you that would expand on this concept of the Shakti signature. Shakti signature, number one. Dadi was a visionary, seeing with love. Dadi's eyes reflected the depths of her soul. She had soul-conscious vision, or drishti, divine drishti. She was able to see all human beings as one family, God's family. Her eyes embraced everyone with recognition and with belonging. Dadi's drishti raised us up and made us felt seen, appreciated, and loved. Dadi's elevated drishti served to open a capacity in those she was with. She allowed for a capacity for renewal, for recovery, and for progress. She saw a strength in others that they didn't even know they had. Her loving vision seemed to open up into an invisible path within her, and she was able to see what was real and what was illusion. And it seems as though she moved the illusion away to allow the reality of the strength to emerge in the other. In the late 1970s, Dadi was in New York City, and she was walking along UN Plaza when she noticed this array of flags flying in great splendor. So she stopped and she asked those that she was with, "What is this place?" And they said, "It's the United Nations headquarters." And then she became silent, and for a few minutes she went into the deep remembrance of God. After a while, when she emerged out of her silence, for a few minutes, she spoke with a significant knowing. And she said, "God's flag of revelation will be hoisted here one day." And of course, those with her looked at her stunned, saying, "What are you saying, Daddy?" But guess what? In 1981, the Brahma Kumaris became affiliated to the United Nations. And as they say, the rest is history. I call Dadi a visionary because she was able to receive clear signals, almost as if they were premonitions. She must have seen clearly in those few minutes of her silence that the Brahma Kumaris would be emerging on the field of world service in a very practical way at the United Nations. It was as if her grace gift of divine insight made her have very clear visions of the signals she was receiving. And she was able to make sense and meaning in the moment she received them. Dadi never saw pieces. Dadi always saw the whole. And I suppose this is what one would call seeing with love. Because when you see with love, you see the whole. You don't have a hidden agenda. You don't have a selfish motive. You don't even have expectations, I suppose. But you're just seeing something for what it is, and you're seeing it in its wholeness. The world may call this systemic seeing, but we call it divine drishti. Dadi's vision was always inclusive of the whole world. She never just focused on one place or on one people. Her soul-conscious vision was one of spiritual equality and of inclusivity. Shaki Signature too. Dadi was a world mother acting from her heart. There is a saying that the world doesn't need leaders, the world needs mothers. Dadi Prakashmani was both. She was a mother and she was a leader. Dadi never did anything out of duty or obligation. She always acted from a place of love. Pandit Bhavan was her home. Pandit Bhavan was also the spiritual headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris, where Dadi lived. She knew everyone by name and by nature. And she was in touch with every single department. And she knew exactly how they functioned. But what was most intriguing about Dadi was her accessibility. In the mornings, she would read the morning versions that we call as the Murli. And she would read that to the whole community in our main auditorium. After she finished reading the Murli, she would leave and then she would walk into the courtyard. And then she would sit in the courtyard and then she would make herself available for anyone to come and meet her. It was as if she made the courtyard into her meeting room, into a space where anyone can come and say whatever they had to say to her, and they were free to do that. She was just like a mother, sitting there with her open hair, drying her hair in the sun, while her children gathered around her, not needing permission, and no one was afraid to go up to her and tell her what they needed to say. I would describe this way of meeting as a poetic act that showed care and showed compassion. She was acting from a heart that was big, a heart that was open, a heart that was generous. And in so doing, she was generating in the hearts of others a trust in her, and a trust that she had in them, and a deep love for the service that we were all involved in. No one was afraid of Dadi because she trusted that person. And each one knew that he or she, because of that trust, had a place in their hearts that trusted Dadi. Signature, Shaki Signature number 3. Dadi was a spiritual genius. Dadi was a spiritual genius because she lived according to what I call the humility code, while being in a position of great authority. She was a lifelong student, constantly discovering and learning the treasures within her. She knew her purpose, and she knew how to live out that purpose. It was the quality of her being that did the most service. People describe being in her presence that they were simply transformed. Her responsibility was self-purification, but her bigger commitment was to God's plan. She was an instrument with her unique specialties, but she also knew and recognized that there were many others with their own unique specialties, and they were also instruments bringing those specialties to God's plan. Cooperation for her was the dynamic of her Shakti signature. She had this art of drawing out a love from others that contributed to the success of God's plan, because she knew that God's plan required the input of all, and all that was needed for that input to be offered was a little love, true love. Dadi never wanted to be a single flower. She was at her best when she was in the company of other flowers. She loved bouquets, and she loved gardens. The smiles that Dadi's left behind are so precious. Dadi may have left behind 1,000,000 poetic acts from which we all are still learning from. But the smiles she left behind are to be savored. The smile of her friendship, always being there for us, never judging, even when there was cause to correct us. Her smile of honesty, when she spontaneously said, without any trace of ego, "I never told a lie." Did we believe her? Sure we did. Why? Because of her humility, her sincerity, that cleanliness that shone through those words. Dadi's smile of pure joy when she greeted us on arrival into Pandap Bhavan, she would say with that precious smile, welcome to your home, Baba's home. And we knew in our hearts that we were safe, that we were protected, we were cared for, and we were comforted. We were truly at home. And then when it came time for us to leave, there was Dadi again with her smile as she said, "Go soon, come soon." That magical smile with the promise, you will return because this is your home. Thank you, Dadi.